during the month of, oh, good call. During the month of July, I challenged that we needed to make sure we brought our A game for the NAR and PAR changes. And I think that we've really seen, not just in Pittsburgh, Jennifer's huge asset. And I think someone was thanking her as I was logging in as well. I know Doug in Altoona, Fran in Johnstown, everybody's really put their best foot forward to make sure that we are being the best we possibly can as a team in this changing time. So teamwork.
I got teamwork too. I want to thank everybody who made a donation to the Urban Academy for sports class. I think that was great teamwork, and the students really appreciated it. Yesterday I talked to book back, and the administrator assistant had just kind of called that one of the kids didn't have like a book bag, school supplies. So there I kind of walked in the door with 2 book bags and some extra supplies. So I think that was great teamwork.
Yeah, I love that. Any others?
You got room for one more?
I do.
Communication, seek first to understand. If you're a buyer's agent, you better be honing in on those needs assessments and understanding what our buyers are looking for and digging down deep while building up your value.
Good one. All right. This one else. Wait, I'm gonna put mine for a second. All right, as always, the QR code to donate to KW Cares is on the screen. As a reminder, you can donate with every closing. It will prompt you. Just to recap, over 1,000 KW family members have found hope and relief through KW Cares, responded to several natural disasters that have affected our KW family, and over $2.8 million have been awarded in grants and assistance. So thank you to everyone who donates to KW Cares. Doug, should I play this? Del Grosso.
Yeah, yeah, play it.
All right, final head count is due like after this meeting, because Doug's gonna kill me otherwise. This Saturday, just kidding, this Saturday, Del Grosso theme park is $25 for lunch, all day ride and slide pass. And it's about 2 hours from here, and Doug has a great menu, so there's no sound, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, it's chicken and rib meal with macaroni and cheese and the very best potato salad you will ever have in your life. The food is worth the trip alone. You know, we have rented a pavilion number 8 will be our pavilion. So if you're logged into this meeting and you are already committed to attend, make sure you note that pavilion number 8 is where we will be congregating. I'm going to be getting there between 11:30 and 12, but we won't be serving our catered lunch until 1:30. If you would like to get tickets, just let Allie know, let me know. You can email me at the email address you see there. $25 will include your meal and your ride and slide pass, which is essentially $6 off the ride and slide pass, or $8 off the ride and slide pass alone, let alone an amazing meal, and of course a chance for all of us to get together, bring your families, and all that. So hopefully y'all can make the trek over. We did it 2 years ago. It was a nice afternoon. It looks like the weather hopefully will cooperate. So hopefully we see everybody there.
Thanks, Doug. So if you guys want to go, like today is really the last day that we can know, so we can get tickets and the food reserved. So let me know, let Doug know you're gonna make it. How excited Joe looks. Do you want to talk about this one?
I can. There's a couple dates that I really wanted to put on your calendar. So put these on. So number one, this week, actually tomorrow, is KW Tech doing deals. There's been a lot of change on the tech side. I know that we had Scott Leroy on recently, and that there's just a lot going on there, and they're going to specifically talk about how to make business with what we've got on the tech side. So put that on your calendar if you can for tomorrow at 2:00. It is on Zoom. We will share the Zoom link out from the company Facebook page, and then we will host it there at the office as well. Education Tuesday. So today, after team meeting, obviously there will be continued education opportunity and conversation after this. But then next Tuesday again, mastering the seller conversation. Wealth Building Wednesday. This is like an unsung hero of communities in the region. They have like super high level authors and speakers that come onto that call. If you want to talk about like developing wealth, or which we all should be talking about, or you want to be able to educate your clients more on wealth conversations, that is a call to definitely be on. If you are not taking advantage of some of these things, then you're missing out on the value proposition of what our company and our region put together for us. And then last but not least, I know it feels like it is so far away, but Lydia starts school tomorrow and fall has arrived for me. And October 16th is business planning clinic at the Pittsburgh South office. And over the next week or so, we're going to be really starting to share the Eventbrite and all of that stuff. But I just want you to put that on your calendar, pencil it in, take a look, and then let's make a plan to have you there. Fran came down from Johnstown last year, and we have Tim Beverlin, who is, in my opinion, he's like one of my favorite speakers. He's super fun and funny guy. And so we have a different speaker than we did last year. We had Gene Rivers. So we have Tim Beverlin's presenting that October 16th. And that's an all-dayer, basically, like 9 to 2, 9 to 3. So pull your phone out, put it on your calendar, business planning clinic in October. Okay.
Thanks, Joe. All right, we have and have had some birthdays this month. First, Joe, your personal list. Happy late birthday to Joe, August 4th. Brandon and Jennifer share a birthday on the 5th. Jackie was on the 6th. Jenny the 12th. Linda the 15th. Rex the 15th. And still to come is Terry Martin. Happy birthday, everybody.
Happy birthday.
And we have some anniversaries this month. Happy anniversary to moi, Mike Gong, Washington Smith, Lisa Whitman, Matt Smudge, and Teresa Laricon. All right, we have some new agents that we want to welcome. We want to welcome Alexi. He's here in the room. Sure. And Kara Moody, she's joining the Tear Off team, so welcome to Kara. And welcome back, Jordana. She couldn't be here. We're gonna also welcome Charm. He couldn't be here, but he's a new agent here in Pittsburgh also. And we have India D. And we have Orlando, he's online. Welcome, Orlando. Tiffany Harper. Welcome to all of our new agents. We're so glad to have you there.
Great.
And we have some cappers this month, guys. I was on here last month, so I'm just really excited. You know what I mean? My new cappers, Jennifer and Maddie, congratulations. Anyone who doesn't know, as a capper, Jennifer and Maddie will be enjoying earning 100% of their commission until they reset. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, July home run agents. There's quite the list. A home run agent is someone who took a listing, closed a unit, and a contract in the month of July. We have Alex, Barry, Blake, Deanna, Diane, Doug, Heather, Jean, Jeremy, Josh, Ken, Linda, Marlena, Mike, Ryan, and Shannon. First listings taken, either in general or with us. Congratulations to Alex, Bruno, and Shannon. And I noted that it was the wrong last name, I just didn't change something. That's fine. Alex got it. She doesn't do last name. Congratulations to Alex on his first closing with us. Top 3 individuals for gross commission income, Jean, Jennifer, and Diane. Congratulations. Top 3 team gross commission income. First is the Edmondson Group, then Easy Team, and Blake McNeely. That was our second front row.
Oh, yeah.
Top 3 individuals for closed units. Diane Roberts, Jennifer Burns, and Josh Urban. Top 3 teams for closed units in the same order, the Edmondsons, Easy Team, and Blake McNeely. I'm gonna minimize you guys. All right, our Circle Award, the Diamond Circle Award is producing over 1.5 million in sales volume for the month of July. Congratulations to Heather, Ryan, and Jennifer. Yeah, they're big numbers, guys. Let's see, and the Gold Circle Award is producing 1 million in sales volume. Congratulations to Jean. And the Silver Circle is over 500,000 in sales volume for the month of July. Congratulations to Diane, Barry, and Ken. Wait, there was more of the Silver Circle. Congratulations also to Josh and Linda.
Yeah.
There's so many, we needed 2 slides. I want to congratulate, special congratulations to Deanna Davis. She was voted and won the Black Excellence in Real Estate 2024. Congratulations. And Jeremy Tiroff was voted the best real estate agent in the city of. Congratulations to Jeremy. Yay. Any MCA minute updates with Lauren?
Yeah, so something kind of exciting that's coming up, it's gonna be changes with how everyone is paid, so we're slowly transitioning out of Winmore and it's all gonna be in command. So you're not gonna see DAs anymore, but it's gonna be more efficient because you'll be able to see everything in command, you'll see your DA there, and you'll be able to see your split updates in real time, how much you split the command, so. Yeah, more on that later, there will be plenty of trainings to get everyone up to speed on it. But now it's super important that you have everything, updated in command and Winmore so we can help with that transition process a little easier.
Yeah. This is exciting. I've been on those calls. So when your commission changes, rather than doing a termination and you can just change it, it's gonna be lovely, guys. Coaching moment, PC update.
Yeah, we have a bunch of new PC members to welcome. We're growing, and so that's been awesome. I know Tim has had a couple agencies take it, and everyone's really getting to work, so that's awesome. And September group's good. Schedule will be coming out soon.
Also, shameless plug, if anyone has a listing and they don't wanna host an open house, and your sellers are okay with it, reach out to Blake or any of the PC agents, they're really looking for open houses, so let them know.
I would just say, always ask us for open houses. We have houses that can be open.
Yeah.
So,
Y'all heard it here first,
Yep.
ask Brian, Heather, Maddie, and more. All right, Monday market call, Jennifer.
Okay, so if you haven't been joining us, something that we've been seeing in the numbers, is all the way back to February. We've been seeing a positive in the black percentage of active listings go up and up and up in the single digits, and then in the last 5 weeks in the double digits. So pocket that for a second. Total active listings is in the double digits percentage over last year. Does that make sense? So we're increasing. Last week was 22%. Total active listings over total active listings last year. So that says more inventory, correct? But then what we've seen is total pendings for the last 1, 2, 3, 7, 8 weeks is in the red. Last week, minus 9%. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that inventory is going up, pendings are going down, solds are actually going down. Also, it's down 7% last week over last year. So if you haven't already been noticing a shift in the market from a high seller's market, we're seeing it very clearly here that that is shifting. We're going to be seeing even more inventory hitting the market and less buyer activity. Now, if the interest rates go down as they're predicting this fall, that can tilt us even more into a buyer's side market. It might increase some more listings as well for those people that are holding on to their 2.5% interest and they don't want to sell because they refied at 2.5%. Just be thinking about that as you're going into the fall. Please let me know if you want access to this spreadsheet. I'm happy to. All right. Send you a link just so you can look at the numbers, but we're comping now against 2 years worth of data. So we're definitely seeing that trend. No question. Also, we are below the average interest rate for the last 2 years. So stop letting people tell you that it's too high, it's too high, too high. We're still below the average for the last 2 years. So we'd love to see you on Mondays at 11.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
For doing that for years and years and years. All right, shares and wins Johnstown.
You're putting me on and I'm trying to unmute. Gosh, right now I'm just overwhelmed with business in general, which is good and stressful at the same time. And we did have Richland Days. I see that photo there. Thanks for sharing that. Did you get that off our Facebook or? I'm just noticing it. Yeah. So we had Richland Days recently, and I know 2 of our agents are trying to coordinate, Jill and Addie are trying to coordinate something with Forest Hills as well to have a festival there and be out in the community. Business is still going well here in our neck of the woods. So I'm surprised we haven't had any hiccups with the new changes or anything like that. So I consider that a win.
Yeah, congratulations, Fran. Shares and wins Bedford. I know Lori has his daughter at a doctor's appointment today. You saw Alex McCoy up on the leaderboard. He is a Bedford agent, so that is a win for them. Congratulations to that office. Shares and wins Altoona.
Sweet. Business has plateaued a little bit out this way. A lot of what we're seeing kind of mirrors what Jennifer touched on with the market report out your way. Very similar with an increase in we're seeing an increase in inventory in dribs and drabs, but a little bit more than what we had seen last year. We're down in pendings. So things have certainly plateaued, but we are still on pace to have a growth this year from last year. One other note, earlier this month, actually, she'll be on next month's meeting. In our next meeting, she'll be featured. Linda Elder also capped this month. So we now have 2 agents that have capped and 2 others that are on pace to cap within their anniversary years. So we had a terrific meeting last week to go over the NAR changes. We too have not seen, knock on wood, have not seen any bumps in the road there with regards to any pushback or anything of that nature. So good things happen when you're well prepared, and I think we were pretty well prepared going into it. We'll continue to monitor the unfoldings that occur over the next several months, and we'll be equally prepared. So things are going good. We're just going to keep pushing, and hopefully with the anticipated rate drop here, we'll see some late activity going into fourth quarter. So, but yeah, all things are great, and hopefully, again, like I said, reiterate what we talked about earlier with Del Grosso, our KW Day at Del Grosso Park. Hopefully, all of you can make the trek over. Just let us know, and we'll make sure that we get you a food ticket set aside at least, and we'll see you there.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Thanks,
Joe?
It's me. Okay, so I wanted to I wanted to bring a little bit of Mega Camp back and share. I think Mega Camp might be my favorite of the Keller Williams events. It was just held last week. It was, without getting into my personal life, it was the worst week for me to go, and I still loved my time there. I wanted to share a little bit of what I took away. So the way that Mega Camp works, just so you guys know, it's held every August. It happens in Austin, Texas. Who decided to go to Austin in August? I cannot tell you, but it was 100 degrees. And so the way that it works is it's Mega Camp was designed originally as an offshoot of MAPS coaching. So it was in its infancy, it was designed as all of the top producers of the company would get together. So to put it in perspective, Family Reunion can have as many as 20,000 people there. Mega Camp this year had 4,500. It's much more intimate. There were a lot of smaller panels and smaller group settings of very high producers. You're able to like really have that more intimate ability to like, I don't know. To me, I like that smaller setting of just being able to get side by side with high caliber people. So the slide you're seeing here is one of the things that Gary and Jay were speaking. So Jay Papasan, who wrote the book The One Thing, he and Gary were speaking, and they did like a little bit of a I don't want to say keynote, but they did like a little bit of a presentation. And one of the things they were talking about is like right now, and you heard both, Doug and Fran, and all of us probably are feeling it, of just like the changes of what's going on, that one of the things for change management is that you have to be in control of yourself. And if you are out of control, then you will have a much harder time dealing with the mental aspects of change, and also with being able to take different actions, because you're going to be kind of winging it. And I don't know if I'm speaking and anybody's like, damn, I really feel what he's saying, but what they were talking about was this, that controlling your energy on a day-to-day basis is one of the critical things. So I wanted to bring this back. I have probably 3 slides, maybe 4, I forget how I broke them up, but this was something, I took a picture of this slide, and it really hit me. There was an author that wrote a book on building your branding, and that was cool, but like I took a couple notes. It didn't hit me the way that this slide did. Phil Jones was there. I'm a super fan of his. I got to talk to him, shake his hand, fist bump, all that stuff, and I still didn't make any notes. I made notes from his speech, but it didn't hit me like this exact slide right here, which is you're controlling your energy. So I saw Fran taking a picture of this. I want to encourage you guys to make a note of this. This is actually from the Shift book. And so these 5 things are something that you could do every single day to control your daily energy. Number 1, meditate and pray, or find whatever spiritual energy. Number 2, take care of your body physically. So eat right, exercise, and sleep. Number 3, find emotional energy through hugging, kissing, just being with your loved ones. Number 4, setting goals, planning and calendaring for your mental. And number 5 is time blocking your business energy. And we were talking about like right now, like and market stats, Monday market stats just showed it. Like, it's not like there's no business. There's tons of business opportunity. Thousands of transactions are going to happen in our marketplace. And it's right now, it's who's going to go get it. Who's going to take the action to go get it? So making sure that you're putting time on your calendar and doing the work for your business will drive energy. One thing that is fun, but the only thing that's more fun than fun is winning. So I want to challenge you guys to do the work, specifically time blocking for your business. So that's number 1, this slide here. And then Gary gave 3 scenarios for the possibility of what's going to happen next in the market. And I want to show you these because I took pictures of all 3 of these slides. So number 1, going into 2025. Like, by the way, right now, we're almost on the doorstep of Q4. So what's happening now is going to start to tee up 2025. So number 1 for possible scenarios of 2025 is this, that we really have no recession. Unemployment stays about where it is right now. Unemployment's about 4%. If we stay below 5, that would be pretty stable. Interest rates would fall to about 6%, right? And that would be a drop of almost 1% from 0.75% from where we are right now. And home sales this year in 2024 are projected to be around between 4 and 4.2 million in home sales. And this would tell us that we would have a slight tick up in home sales to 4.5. So the decline in rates will be good, but the recovery is slow, and it's a little bit, maybe just like a 1 notch better than this year for next year. So that's possibility number 1. Possibility number 2 is a normal recession. So that's the upper left-hand corner. So I probably should have broken all 3 of these into different slides, but we'll look at these 2 together. So scenario number 2 is a normal recession. We actually don't like, one thing that Gary said, and just put this in your brains, our industry is having a recession. Our industry is having a recession, and we have been in an industry specific recession for at least a year. So just like, it's okay. Everybody take a deep breath, acknowledge it. It's happening. It's real. And he said that, you know, it's not uncommon for one segment of a market of the economy to feel a recession. And that could be either a leading indicator or it could be a lagging indicator. And so going into 2025, it's possible that the overall economy sees a little bit more of a normal recession, and unemployment would tick up somewhere between 6 and 8%. Interest rates would fall pretty significantly going into 2025 and probably be somewhere between 5 and 6%. And home sales would go up. You'd see more movement of homes because as there's a little bit less economic stability, that means that people need to move either ups or downs because of opportunity or struggle. And we would see home sales go back to 5 million, which would actually be a pretty significant uptick. We would probably lead the economy out of the recession because we would have more home sales. So you can see his notes there next to that. So bottom right-hand corner there is the scarier one. That's number 3 scenario of a banking recession. So what they sort of spoke to is that overall, we're probably not going to see a 2008 economic crash where residential mortgages cause it. But in this scenario, it would be commercial lending could cause instability in the banking world that would lead to a recession that start in commercial and then potentially come over where they would pull back on banking. If that were to happen, it would be a pretty significant impact. You'd see unemployment go up to somewhere between 8 and 10%. So on the higher side of a normal recession, you'd see interest rates fall dramatically. And like what they said was that if that were to happen, you'd probably see interest rates again somewhere in the upper 3s, 3.75-ish, which would be sort of back to the tail end of COVID. And home sales, the bad news is that if that happens, you probably see a pullback and that people would be very leery of selling, and they'd only be selling in that situation if they had to. And you'd see home sales go under 4 million. And they said that the indicators for that would be, it would look very much like the Great Recession, 2007 to 2010 timeframe. Because in 2007, right at the tail end of 2007 going into 2008, you had those residential mortgage companies that took those subprime loans, they failed, and that caused all the ripple effects. And this banking recession could look similar if it did that. They didn't give an indication of like how likely they feel, and they actually are leaning much more towards 1 and 2 than 3. But commercial mortgages right now and the commercial banking and commercial world in general is giving us some indications that scenario 3 here is not totally out of the question. Default rates are up and commercial space is becoming much more plentiful and values are dropping. And all 3 of those indications are a little bit of a yellow flag to be aware of. It's only a question of how much are they going to impact us. So again, coming back from Mega Camp, I wanted to give you something. I wanted to give you value of what it was like other than being hot and having fun dinners. And this is, so I wanted to give you these. So number 1 was the energy plan, and then these scenarios of what the economy looks like going into 2025. This is the information you get when you go there. You get to be in the room with authors, speakers, great coaches, great leaders, and the conversations are pretty phenomenal. So next time we're going to have a big opportunity for something like this is Family Reunion coming back to Vegas in February of 2025. So if you're feeling risky and want to go to Vegas and be in this type of environment where you get to see these things, KW has this coming back in February of 2025. So put that in your growth plan and save up, and you can book your tickets now. So that's all I got for Mega Camp. Does anybody have any questions from anything that I shared or anything about the experience of going down to Mega Camp? All right. Hopefully I didn't lose you. Was it valuable to hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
We got one, yes.
Well, I mean, one's like, that's okay, whatever. All right. Well, I wanted to bring it back, so I appreciate you guys letting me share a little bit of what the big thinkers are saying. So, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jennifer, start. NAR and PAR updates. We left Tuesday's class with some questions, and Jennifer has some answers for us.
Okay, if you attended last week's class talking about buyer agency, we left with a couple of questions. The first one was on open houses, thank you, Danny. I talked to, well, actually, it was a little interesting, the PAR legal hotline, who's the main lawyer for PAR, has been sentenced, if you will, to answer all questions relating to agents coming from West Penn multi-list. Because they have not completed their written instructions and rules. They're waiting on some things, West Penn. So Hank was really wanting to be specific and making sure that I have proper answers. So in terms of open houses, he said that the terms of the NAR agreement says a written agreement with any relationship that involves compensation is required. So he clarified then, saying that a lack of clarity on working with a buyer, but is it clear you're both wanting to work together? So an open house, you know, you're chit chatting, you're allowed to do that. It's what happens going forward. So, and I'll touch a little bit on what Mark Cole said at West Penn, but he said, pulling comps versus, let me pull some comps and I'll give you an opinion of value or offer or price. That's totally different. You can pull comps for somebody. That is something that someone can find publicly on their own anyway. You're just faster, right? So that's public information. When you take it a step further and start giving opinion, that's when it becomes more of an agency relationship. And he said, putting yourself out there between tasks, doing tasks for them to where they think you are working for them, right? Are there clear lines versus blurry? He said, if you are having a substantive conversation requiring a consumer notice, that should then trigger having a VAC. All right, so if you're like, who's your lender? How much do you want to put down? Blah, blah, blah. That's VAC. Also, quote, I don't represent you, like, okay, you're in the open house and they're asking you all these questions. He said it could be similar to saying, I don't represent you. I'm currently working on behalf of the seller and anything you say can be shared with them. Do you want to protect your information? If so, I'd love to work with you. Are you willing to sign an agency contract for today or whatever? So that was really where he went with that. When I asked him specifically, so that was question number 1 about open houses. Did that give some clarity a little bit to that?
Yeah.
Okay. The next one was showing time. Can we create an autoresponder through showing time from the MLS that when somebody requests a showing, it automatically sends them, you know, showing information, and here's the seller concession that they're willing to offer. He said, I'm not answering that. That is a issue that West Penn will have to enforce, so that he completely punted on that to Barb Cole. The third question we had was in regards to the question you and I talked about on the phone was ranges. And what we talked about a little bit in the class is on the BAC, can you have a range? He said, absolutely, the dollar figure and the percentage figure can be different numbers. So that can create the range for you. He said, and this is a broker question, so I punted to Ally to talk to McGavis on what he wants as a rule for the brokerage to be. But Hank said that they would prefer, so for example, if you've got somebody that's looking, and I use more like luxury, because we've used ranges like that all the time with like lower cost properties, because you're not gonna do the deal at 40,000 and only walk away with 3%. That's not enough. So you might have had a minimum of 2,500, right? And then like 3% if it's a certain amount, whichever is greater. That's what the BAC says. So if you're in maybe higher end and you've got a client that's willing to look at something that needs a ton of work or move-in ready, those prices at any price point can be wildly different. He said you can take the verbiage potentially from the, I think it's B1 in the BAC that says this percentage is for this dollar, whichever is greater, and whatever your admin fee. Take that verbiage and put it on the last page to create a different range of a price point, okay? If you purchase within, 500 to a million, here's this dollar amount or this percentage, and then up higher, you could do, if it's over $1 million, you could say, again, I'll use his terms of donuts because we don't talk numbers. And really the rule here, he said, is it must be calculated on clear, obvious, and neutral criteria, not based on what the seller offers. If it's this price, then here's the commission. It's got to be clear. It can vary, but it cannot be indeterminate. He said, if the fee is based on my own negotiations of my value as a realtor versus the general rule of what you might see in a certain price range. So we see 2.5, all the way up to a certain amount, maybe above 800, you see 2, I don't 2.25 or whatever. It cannot be general rule of like what you normally see. That's talking like price fixing, if you will. You have to basically come at it with your value. One thing that he recommended, if you're coming out with range, create a document that says why your price range is different or why your commission is different in that range. Maybe if it's a fixer-upper kind of thing, you're providing your go-to resources, your referrals, your contractors, or whoever. Create something that supports you if there was ever any issue with a buyer saying that there was a lack of clarity, okay? The last thing after I talked to Hank, I then immediately called Barb Cole at West Penn, and she clarified a couple of things. Right now, they're still waiting on details to their own questions from NAR, right? They are not a board-owned or board-affiliated. West Penn is not MLS that is NAR affiliated, if you can imagine that. So it's a little bit different. Oh, let me backtrack. I'll get there. Okay, she said, do not give information on compensation if you're reverse prospecting. You cannot click on the reverse prospecting, send it out and say, we're offering 3%, blah, blah, blah. No, because the rule of the spirit of the rule of the NAR ruling is that no MLS feeded data or MLS, that's going through the MLS can have anything to do with compensation. Does that make sense? Same thing with showing time. So if somebody goes in the MLS, they're clicking on that showing time button, that is the feed through the MLS. They're waiting on clarity on that, but don't do an autoresponder that says you're willing to cooperate with compensation. Yes.
If you If someone schedules a showing through Showing Time and then messages you privately.
Privately,
please? Okay.
Yes, she said for now, stick to creating a landing page for your own listing or whatever it is, which I put in the Facebook group, the YouTube video of how to create a landing page for your listing, that's where you can send people. Don't reverse prospect and say, here's my website, go here. No, she said for now, be aware to tread softly. This is Barb Cole. There are potential trolls. She thinks, she called them ambulance chasers. I call them U-Haul chasers because, you know, we're in sales. But, that there may potentially be, these attorneys from these huge lawsuits made a ton of money, ton of money, I'm apologizing to you. A ton of money. Don't think for 1 second that there might not be attorneys out there coming to an open house just to see, you know, testing to see if your verbiage is on point. So, or, you know, messaging you and saying, you know, I'm a realtor, blah, blah, can you send me, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that you're using the correct verbiage. And she said, make sure you know how to talk about your concessions. So that being said, there is a concessions button in the MLS, right? That you can click on or off. I said to Hank, I said, I've got a listing that it was found that there was Nobbin 2. They're willing to offer X amount of dollars towards a concession to a future buyer for Nobbin 2. And he said, are they also going to offer a cooperative compensation? And I said, yes, because what you would do is click that button. And then when the agent calls you, you say, the seller is willing to offer up to this percentage and this dollar figure towards concession, or you can say the seller at this price, like the current list price, the seller's offering $10,000. You can apply it however you want. It can be in the form of a price reduction. It can be in the form of compensation, you know, on behalf of the buyer. It can be for the Nobbin 2. So then the buyer can then slice it up, you know, how they want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Y'all with me? So the other thing is Bright MLS, which is the big MLS, you know, in the state, has removed their concessions button because they can't have nice things right now. He said that on behalf of Bright, they removed that button because agents were not getting it right. So if it were me, I would not click the concessions button right now until you feel really comfortable about how you are verbalizing your concession. Just leave it off. The agents are going to be calling you anyway to check, right? So he just said that there are some agents already that have gotten into trouble because they didn't word it right. When they click the concessions on off toggle switch, right? It says yes or no. MLS still has, West Penn still has it, Bright has removed their button.
So what are we doing wrong with it?
I think it's just the verbiage of how people are coming across and explaining the compensation part. So just know, and we talked about this last week, everybody's on a new playing field. Everybody's figuring this out until everybody's on the same page and work kind of gets up to speed with everybody doing the same, even before people were cuckoo and not doing the right thing. So just know that me personally, I would avoid that button and that's what makes it.
Doug has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Doug.
No, second.
Yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to add on something for anybody who's following or listening or hearing, you know, rumblings of different things that are happening with lawsuits and things of that nature. There was a lawsuit that was filed with the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. So if you're a part of PAR, as one of our representatives with PAR, I'm happy to announce that the only lawsuit that was standing against PAR was dropped yesterday. So there are currently no lawsuits. The Pennsylvania Association of Realtors are currently under no litigation whatsoever. So as of right now, things with regards to the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, things have settled, and as Jen elaborated to, with regards to what's going on with West Penn, much of the same things happening here, where we're just sort of a feeling out process. So don't anybody panic. If you have any questions about what's going on, make sure you reach out to your leadership.
Getting clarity on that too is that PAR is separate from the Real Estate Commission. So there are lawsuits that are pending with the State Real Estate Commission. with regards to other items, but PAR has been very clear, and our BAC was always, we talked about this last week, our BAC was super clear. It's how you use it. My boss used to say 99% operator error. How are you using, as the operator of that document, how are you filling it out? So, join us next, Tuesday, where we're gonna be talking about the listing documents, and info around that. So would love to see y'all. If you have any questions about these updates, or if you have more questions, I'm happy to call the legal hotline again or talk to Barb Cole again if you need it. Brian?
I just, what I've been seeing so far in the past 3 days is that most sellers aren't offering compensation. It's just all negotiable. So what's the point of even doing the whole concessions thing? It's like, it's just whatever's in your offer. So it's like, why should we make a big deal out of concessions if, you know, the one offer that I put in for concessions, like the seller was offering a different amount than what I was doing anyways. So it's like, why should you even care? It's like, you're gonna put into your agreement what is on your buyer agency agreement. And if they say no,
No.
then you have to,
It should not be what's in the BAC.
if there's not a
Different, it should be
CBC,
on the CBC.
but if there's not a
Yeah.
CBC, then that's what it should be.
No, you should have it on the CBC, period. It should not be in the agreement of sale unless it's above and beyond, like if they read the seller disclosure.
But what I've been told is there is no CBC.
Okay, from.
That's what I'm
from-
saying.
oh, I
The
see.
listing agents are saying there is no CBC. They're not offering anything, but they're negotiable. Just give me something.
Then it should be on a new CBC. I don't know if you've ever done a deal where someone didn't have the LVP and you're like, it's required. I fill it out on the buy side and send it over saying, have the seller sign it. Put your compensation information on the CBC. If it's a concession that's more of like above and beyond, then it would go in the agreement of sale, but not compensation.
You mean
Why?
like if it was 2.5% they were offering, but your buyer agency agreement says 3, so you want to collect another 0.5 from the seller, you would put it on the agreement of sale?
I would put it in the CBC.
But what's the difference between, yeah, I mean, what's,
Your agreement doesn't have the buffer, there they add something.
yeah, exactly. That's why it's there.
It says in addition to the
Right.
CBC.
Yeah, meaning if there is no CBC, then it should be the amount on your BAC.
I'll go back and talk to Hank about it, but my understanding was that if it relates to compensation, it needs to be on the CBC.
Can you
My
put
guess
it in
is-
the
It seems
offer?
like-
Yeah, then
Well,
we're just in the CBC.
Yeah, can you put,
Well,
can you put it in the offer and then once we're agreed upon and negotiated and then put it on the CBC so we have that separate?
We talked about this last week, the ruling separate from this lawsuit. The spirit of the NAR ethical violation, or could be considered a violation, is that an offer is presumptive based on agent compensation. That's why we weren't necessarily, if you're a member of NAR, you weren't supposed to call a listing agent and go, hey, I see your listing on 123 Main, but you're only offering 2%. I'll show it if your buyer will agree to 3. That's an ethical violation, period. That's
That's the old
how.
way of doing it. Yeah, that was the MLS listing.
No,
Well,
if you refuse to show a property based on the reduction of what the seller's offering, you're supposed to go to your buyer, not the seller.
so.
That should never have been, that is considered an
Yeah,
ethical
yeah.
violation.
So my prediction is the CBC will cease to exist within 6 months. All it's doing is confusing everybody. It's like if it says clearly in the offer what the buyer's paying, then that solves the problem. But the CBC saying, it's like you're still going to the seller and saying, well, I want you to do this. I'll show it if you do this. Like
It's point, that PAR has to function within the spirit of the NAR.
I'm
rules
saying,
about
I'm just
ethics.
saying that'll work
And
itself out. It'll be gone in 6
compensation
months.
is not supposed to be anywhere near the agreement of sale. It is a separate contract between seller and or broker and broker, and the BAC is between broker and buyer. The agreement of sale is not supposed to be the place for compensation.
But that they added it in. Why'd they add it in?
It's different. It's a concession.
No, but there's 2 different.
I'll get clarity and get more information from Hank or whatever, but if you sat in on the PAR classes, they go very clearly over the agreement of sale. And, cooperative compensation should not be.
They have two, on the, you agree, they have two sections, right? One is a one concession and the other is agent concession, right? Is it two separate?
It's different.
They're two separate, right?
One's agent,
Yeah,
one's seller.
It used to be the seller assist.
Cooperating compensation, like, from like, if I charge 6% and offer, that's not going to the agreement of sale. But if I were offering 0,
So,
right, and you were, I still wanted a concession.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
6%,
Okay,
then I'll put it in there.
Yeah,
so,
yes, yes.
but here's why this doesn't work, in my opinion. If a seller is not offering a CBC. So I had 3 multiple offer situations in the past 3 days, literally. So if there's no CBC, the sellers are saying, no, we're not giving you a CBC, we're negotiable. So you're saying that if a seller is dealing with 7 different offers, they're gonna say, okay, I'll write a CBC for this particular offer before you get me my offer at 5 o'clock tonight. So there's gonna have to be this whole thing of negotiation, because if that CBC doesn't exist, then technically my buyer agency agreement that says 0 is gonna screw me if I don't have that signed first. So they can't, like, it's
I think
too.
what we're gonna see, and I get your point, I see what you're talking about here. But I think what we're gonna see is the reality of these new rules and these new documents in practice are going to probably change again based on the feedback that they're getting from real
Yeah.
world situations. But again, what Hank was reiterating is in the spirit of the NAR ethical, whatever, that they're, you know, the original offer of compensation. I think what we're gonna see too, in my opinion, is going to be more clarity on the CBC from the listing side. To where buyers agents aren't, oh, fluffing around, like, what are you offering? Oh, well, yes. Do you know what I mean? We were guessing already in multiple offers in terms of the buyer winning. But there should be more of a conversation with your buyer that, hey, if you go into this and you go in with like not asking for any kind of concession, can you afford what we have in our BAC? That conversation of that should have happened long before when we did your BAC. Because the buyer's saying, yeah, I can afford that. I can afford to pay you if the seller isn't, right? That's already part of what we should be saying. Correct?
To your what?
To your buyer, when you fill out the buyer's agency contract.
Okay,
I asked these questions. Can I talk? I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead, Fran.
Look at my marbles over here.
Yes.
I asked these specific questions in the broker's call, and I listened to things, and then I called. I've asked things. I've talked to our association too. So the way that it's been explained to me, and the notes that I have taken, is when you are showing that property, you can ask up front. That is dictated by whatever was in their listing agreement. If in their listing agreement they put 0, then they can say there's no CBC. That's fine. And then you would be putting the contract if you were asking for it to be built in for your client. But if on my listing agreement I have 3 marbles are being compensated under that section in the listing agreement, then I can prepare a bunch of those forms that state for my listing, 3 marbles are going to be compensated. I can leave them at the house, so any agent that's showing it already has an agreement. When they go to show the house, it's there for them. Or they can contact me and I can send it to them ahead of time for their showing, or however they want to structure that. Now, if they had a BAC, that maybe they charge their client 5 marbles, that's fine. 3 marbles is what is in the CBC. We do not change that. If their buyer wants to negotiate and say, hey, I don't want to pay the extra 2 marbles, then they can put it on the line of the agreement of sale if they are asking for that as a concession in addition to the 3 that was already compensated, has already been negotiated with that seller and with their broker, their agent, whoever. That was already the compensation that they had agreed to when listing. The 2 marbles that you're asking for in addition would kind of be along the lines of seller assist, but it's used for compensating that agent. They can ask for both. They can ask for a concession seller assist. And also the top line, you can put in the 2 marbles on top of maybe another $2,000, whatever they needed as another seller assist. You can put those both in there. That's how it's supposed to be broken down. You're not going to change the CBC to say, I need 5 marbles, because that was never the agreement. The agreement is whatever was in that listing contract. So that's what is
So-
on that CBC
Right.
form.
One of the examples that I was getting from Ryan, or got the point from Ryan, was that this listing agent was saying, there's none, but they're negotiable. I think as listing agents, we have to be upfront. What is the seller offering per the listing contract? But if they say 0, are you saying that, if I'm a buyer's agent and my client has a BAC for like 2.5 or whatever marbles, I can put 2.5 in that line, because it then is considered compensating, obviously, the buyer back for what they would be paying the BAC anyway. Make sense? Is that what you're saying?
They can do that, because that everything that's in that agreement of sale is 100% negotiable. So you
Yes.
can ask for whatever terms from your client, being the buyer, wants to put into that agreement, and it goes to the seller to review. The seller may counteroffer any one of those things, just like they could in the past. If someone asked for seller assist of 6% or whatever on seller assist because they were using a government loan, and the seller comes back and says, you know what, I'm only willing to give 3 or 4, they can counter offer that. Any part of that offer can be countered. So that includes that area with that compensation. So they could remove it and still stick to their guns if they don't feel that the offer is what's netting them where they want to be. They can certainly back that out of there, cross it off, initial it, and send it back that it's 0. And you already have your BAC with your client, that then when you go back to them, you would give them a new estimated cost sheet and say, okay, here's the counter, here's what this would look like for you, and here's how much you would need to bring. And they can either make that happen or they can't. So it's not a matter of, do I show this house because an amount is this or that? No, if you've signed that BAC with them upfront, we look at anything and they have to understand, if there's something that's offering 0, I can put it into the sales contract for you, or we can add that to your closing costs, and this is something that's going to be part of your fees. If it doesn't come together, it doesn't come together. Like any other offer we've written 50 times in the past, it's just a little different. It's really no change. It's what their net is to the seller, and it's what the total closing costs are to the buyer. When you're filling out that form, it's just explaining it to them of how it's going to work out, and either they're okay with it and move forward, or they're not. So I went through a really in-depth conversation with that, and that's what it boils down to. So I guess I'm not real clear on why there's. Go ahead.
Best practice if you're a buyer's agent, if you're looking in a certain area, to go ahead and have the lender put 2.5, whatever's in your BAC, at that price point, or whatever, say they're looking at 350 is their max or whatever, and doing a general idea or whatever. Go ahead and put the BAC in there so that they know and can see what that looks like up front. And then if this, have the lender redo it if we're now looking at 275 and 3s being offered, blah, 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 get that done in advance. And then if you're on the sell side, we already have it required as part of our compliance to do a net sheet, right? You're putting in that, that has been agreed upon in the listing contract as the BAC or other concessions. And you're putting that in the net sheet so that it's clear with your seller at that rate. But it doesn't mean that the buyer's agent come in and say, well, my BAC is only 2.5, so that's what's changed. You know what I mean? Like if a seller's offering 3 and your BAC said 2.5, though, that difference has to be offered in a buyer concession. You cannot take more than what's on your BAC. Made that clear last week. Sorry. Thank you, Fran. Those questions were good, but I mean, obviously I would leave them in my own listing to a CVC, just showing of being clear. But if you're an agent, you don't wait to go show and find out it's zero, and then that's the house your buyers fall in love with, and now they are gonna struggle coming up with that cash to pay you.
But even if they're offering zero, it's still negotiable. So put it in the agreement anyways. That's my point.
Yeah,
It's still
yeah.
part of,
It's no different than asking for an
No,
assistant,
it's
maybe just
different.
up in the price, like people do,
Yeah.
to try to make the difference up in the net that the seller's gonna net, right? Or, you know.
yeah. Yeah, if they say no, then say, okay, fine, my offer goes down by $10,000, you know? So.
Thank you, Fran.
But your seller is just gonna be off by 6%, right?
No, it depends on the type of loan,
Well, type of loan, but usually 6, right? Max.
is the max usually.
So what happens with
But
the,
that's gonna change. They're figuring out that.
Better, yeah.
Joe, did you want to chime in on something? I saw you there.
No, well, I was putting my hand up super early. I wanted to let you guys know, we just had an agent get secret shopped in New York. And it went well, but that we've heard that there's going to be a little bit more of that oversight. And I want to clarify a little bit of this. Like we, and when I say we, I mean myself, Allie, Jennifer, Fran. I've talked to McGavis more in the last 3 weeks than I would have ever thought I would. We are making sure that we're doing the best we can. I was getting some question. I've gotten more than one question about like what's going on and do we have office policies? And we've shared that we're sort of shying away from over policying things. And one of the realities is like Pennsylvania had way more precedent, and Jennifer sort of alluded to this. Well, she said it directly actually. We had a lot more precedent for how to do this behavior coming into this, and that's leading to almost, in some cases, more chaos in questions because we had so many ways of doing things, whereas other states, there are a lot of states that had very little oversight and very little documentation, and whatever they write is like it's like kind of straightforward. So we're seeing some things that are sort of leading to that. But there is ways for you to hear it directly, like what Fran was just talking about, the PAR webinar. The next one is the August 23rd. Allie was a gem and made QR codes for you for everything. And they are on the screen right now. So if you want to sign up for the webinar, you don't even need to go to the PAR website. You could just take a little picture and you have a QR code. And we also, as an office, made a decision to put the new PAR documents into a Google Drive so they are available for you. We've gotten a lot of feedback that agents are looking for those. So that is here in one place for you. And we're going to make these things available as well. And we are doing our best to stay on top of things. I have a call with an attorney next Wednesday, just on like, making sure that we are staying compliant. We've been talking to, like I said, with all of our leadership to stay on top of things, and we're having constant classes. So please, please, please bear with us because it's not perfect. But also, please make sure that you're doing the best practices because like I said, York actually just got secret shopped just even within the last week, and we're seeing some of these things. So we want to make sure we're doing our best with everything. And if you have questions, please kick it to a leadership person because we want to give you the best guidance we possibly can as we have it. But to get it from the horse's mouth from PAR, you can be on that webinar on August 23rd. And even if you register and don't attend, you get a copy of the recording, and that way you can stay up to date with stuff. I do have to
wanna
hop
say
out.
too- Hold on, yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Joe.
No,
I wanna
yep,
say
thank
too,
you.
Wait. Brian, you want to ask Joe a question?
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry.
I'm here. No, I'm here. What do you got?
My question was about secret shops. Like, is that like happening? That would have to happen in writing, right? Because if somebody comes into an open house, they cannot record you legally. Right? So just like,
This was a situation where it was secret shopped. I think they set a showing up and they were asking a bunch of like questions that sort of raised the antennas, and then they went for a showing and she did everything right and just sort of uncovered that that's really what it probably was. And then, again, this is a little bit of rumor mill thing, but we were told that the real estate commission is the one, obviously the real estate commission is the ones who are doing the secret shopping, and they are probably in this Q3 to Q4 going to have an uptick in secret shopping. So just to be aware of that. Yep.
I want to point out too, that if you went to the first PAR webinar on this, it's different than the second one. Currently on the PAR website, you'll see the second webinar's recording. They've had tons of questions since everything went active on the 17th and valid at that point. And Hank said, the next one's going to be different. They do them live. It's not the same recording. So I highly recommend going to this third one if you haven't, or if you went to one of the first or second, go ahead and get to the third one.
Alright, for anyone, okay, time out, wait, first of all, food is on its way, he's like stuck in shady, so I don't know what's happening, but it will be here in a few minutes, so just hang out. And then for anyone who wants to say, I have all the documents that we're just like regularly using that have changed, there's a ton more. If anyone wants to stay here, we can flick through and talk about them, any questions. Otherwise, don't go very far, because I ordered a lot of food. It's Greek, it's all separate, so there's rice, pita, hummus, chicken, vegetables. So I cannot say what we have.
I have another question. So I just had this happen, showing some houses this weekend where I have a relationship, signed buyer's agency contract, did the whole shebang. And they were moving their kids into Pitt and brought their son's girlfriend's family to the showing. What am I supposed to do there? Because I'm not representing them, they're just coming along, but I'm opening a door. So what's the?
Are they buyers or they just?
They're just coming along.
No needs.
So that's fine?
Yeah.
I was just like.
It's an understanding that you're working with them on behalf of them that will require compensation.
Okay.
That's the spirit of the ruling. Anybody else want to jump in there, Fran or Doug? Because if they're just bystanders and they just happen to be at the showing, there's no point in PAC. You're not going to pay.
That's my concern though, is like, what if like,
Are they going to buy? That would be my next question. Are you thinking of buying in Pittsburgh? And if they say yes, I'm like, I'd love to represent you. You're the BAC. But if like, oh, we're traveling and they're just asking you how's the market or whatever, that's not an agency relationship.
If you feel like you should present consumer notice, you can always do that, at least do that.
here's my concern is like, what happens when you show, you show like 20 houses to parents and their daughter. And you have the daughter sign a BAC, and then 3 weeks later, the parents go directly to the agent and say, actually, we're buying it.
Well, that would be shitty.
I would.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
first
shady,
of all, you
but
should be already having a conversation with them. And again, there's going to be a plethora of scenarios that are gonna be off the grid, that are just in the gray, we're gonna figure it out. But you've already talked to your buyer, like, how are you purchasing this? If it's the parents, have all three of them on the BAC and have them initial it all. If you're in any way, shape, or now, if all they're saying is they're offering a gift, I don't think the BAC is necessary, because that's not them actually purchasing the property. But if they're like, we're buying it on behalf of our daughter, they should be the ones. They should be on the BAC.
I just experienced this exact situation kind of that you're playing out, and it wasn't on me personally. I was the listing agent, and there was an agent from my office that had shown the property, and the lady that was touring it said she was touring it for somebody else. And the somebody else signed the BAC because they were looking at it virtually with this friend. Okay. And all of the communication was they were writing an offer. So I have the feedback from that individual that they are writing an offer for this person who looked at it with their friend. Then I also had a second set of people that was a daughter and her father toured this same home. The father was the buyer and the daughter was just along for the ride, looking at it to help her dad make a decision. I then find, and I have multiple offers, and I'm the listing agent. I'm not representing any of these buyers. I then find that I have this other agent who's never shown the property asking me when are you presenting the offers? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, they want to know when I'm presenting the offers on this property because they are under the impression that there are multiple offers. And I said, well, there is. Have you shown it? The answer was no. But now they all of a sudden have a referral from the lender, which really made this out of sorts, for a specific buyer who was not one that signed the BAC, but now is interested in this property because they looked at it with someone else. So I receive an offer from this agent who's now representing this other individual who looked at it with one of our agents in our office, but wasn't the technical buyer. Now decides that they're going to jump into the loop. The person that signed the BAC never did write the offer then. So there was a lot that went on. And I was kind of stuck because I was only the listing agent. And, you know, I'm just conveying to this other agent who never even showed the property, wasn't even from our county, who's saying, well, I have rights to this because I got it as a referral from the lender. And they were told to write up the offer. And that's what their broker stood.
So
And
my
I
question
said,
is that the lender's not the buyer.
nope, they
It's a
weren't.
referral all day long. If someone's submitting an offer, I mean, whoever had the BAC has a right to then go to whoever did write the offer. Maybe they sign another, I don't know, but go to that other broker and say, I'm due this commission. I've procured cause. I showed this. I mean, that's a very specific example, but that's happened randomly, maybe once for me in 8 years. But is that not the case? Would that not be the case?
Well, the person that signed the BAC ended up not even making an offer. So I guess, you know, it was just an interesting scenario of, was this person really wanting to see it themselves?
Yeah, somebody who's shady.
Pretty live.
Or they just took the first person that was willing to open the door for them, which happens
So
too.
more than likely, they had a lower, they had a lower BAC signed with the person that didn't have to show it. You know,
Well,
But the
no,
buyer never, actual buyer never signed the BAC, so, right?
Right, this
Well, they
this
said
person
somebody
made the
else
offer,
is.
never signed one.
Hard to hear you, what?
In my scenario, the person that was writing an offer never signed a BAC with the agent that showed it because that was not to be the client. So I said, you know, my antennas went up and I was just thinking, okay, well, was this a scenario that this person actually was the person that was interested, but didn't want to get into having to sign an agency relationship? So they were just the ones going in place of their friend, and the friend did e-sign a BAC and was on a phone call with that person. But then they ended up saying, changed my mind, not interested. And now the person that actually looked at it is the one that wants to buy it and through someone else. You know, it was
So the
just an
buyer
odd
agent-
scenario of how or why that would have ever occurred.
The buyer agency is at somewhat of a fault, because they should have done their due diligence and actually had verified that that's a legit buyer, that's their client, that's actually serious about buying.
people can always find a way to screw you.
yeah.
It's the moral of the story.
Yeah, if somebody wants, I mean, I think what's gonna happen here too is as long as the agent is doing their, you know, inquiry, like you're pre-approved, you're blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait, you're her neighbor and you're just taking a peek because she's out of town this weekend or whatever. Okay, what is your relation to this person and whatever, like, that could always be the case if a buyer's being shady for some reason. In the end, what ends up happening is that most of the time we get dissuaded from taking any legal action from our own finding procuring cause, because they're like, who's gonna sue? Now you're gonna lose that client, blah, blah, blah. But agents are gonna start holding the general public accountable too, right? This makes it super clear. If it wasn't clear enough before, it definitely can make it a little wonky, especially in that case, Fran, that's definitely very specific. Who's here? Okay, you're back online. Ally just is setting up the food here for the agents here in the office.
Thanks.
Hold on. You got no line, Greg, come on here. Did everyone fill out their thing?
Yes.
Did everybody fill out their little thing? Well, hurry up, let's go. Hold on, there you go. Alex? I got it. Tiffany, did you fill it out? Oh, you're here. Just where she's going. She's like, come on. Found the bowl, by the way. It was downstairs.
Out of the, regular,
It was downstairs. Somebody's not gonna watch it. This is exciting.
I thought you were gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
oh, wait, those are not. Here, yeah.
All right.
Holding that.
Yeah. What's up? It's just a bar.
Man, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
So Jen, just in a condo building. And with Jen, there was a lot of lock boxes, so I pulled the KW lock box and put it on.
And make it more identified.
All right, winner for our box.
What?
Yeah.
Thank you.
On a railing.
Not another one. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. This is recorded. Thank you. Thank you.
Kiona? Yeah. Nice to meet you. Are you? I am.